Welcome to another Pneuma of Now podcast. Whoa, where's Richard been? Well, took a little bit of a break this year, not the full year, but we've taken the last probably 3 or 4 months to really get centered into a different awareness. In that time, I've been watching Maja's channel grow. She started this amazing mystical translation series. I think she's going to start calling that MTS on all the podcasting platforms. Am I right? Okay,
Yep,
so
correct.
obviously all that information is on the descriptions below, but this is Maja's second appearance on the channel, and it is our third conversation together, as I made one appearance on her channel. So there's actually a series developing here. I'm actually toying with the idea of calling this next phase of what I do with the Luminal mind, this next little group of episodes or uploads, whether I have a guest or whether it's just myself, thinking about calling it, I'm toying with the idea of naming it Breakthrough to Freedom. And when I say break, I want to acknowledge the fact that I took a break. And so we're breaking through to freedom. Okay. And so I know that Maja took a break this year, and my first little handoff in the conversation, obviously introduce yourself. There's people that have never seen you or know nothing about me or you, just as briefly as possible, and then talk about your break and then the ideas of getting back into motion and inside of the power of the voice. I'm very, very impressed with your content. I am a fan of your work, and I thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Richard. So I'm Maja. I have a podcast called Vibration Translation, and on that podcast, I did create recently that mystical translation series where it's just me talking and spiritual insights, reflections, integrations on the psyche. Pretty much for the last 10 years, I've been deeply submerging myself within spirituality and exploring the realms of the psyche and spirituality. And, first starting out with, is there anything else to the world but besides the physical? Is there anything beyond? And then from that point onwards, how can I feel happy? Why don't I feel happy? And slowly all those elements trickled into me going on last 3 years, on like major psychedelic immersion with the intention of better understanding myself and my place in the world. And from that, I took an 8-month break from taking any kind of psychedelic. So I took, magic mushrooms, LSD, and ayahuasca. And from now, I have 8 months of just being, quote unquote, sober from pretty much anything. And that that gave me a lot of time to integrate and rework from a place of, and to coming into a place where I'm happy that I'm in a body and I'm on earth, because for a long time I didn't even want to be here and on earth. And right, it's like the trope of, oh, you don't want to, I don't feel like I belong here. But now I finally realize, like, I'm here and I'm really working to embody everything that comes from the realms of, multidimensionality and psychedelics and all that, because it can be very out here. And I'm working on embodying all of that to practically really embrace myself and other people as the powerful creators that we really are. And by bringing in more awareness just to each experience.
Well, I want to jump in right here real quick because I'm really glad you brought that up about the embodiment piece. We have a lot in common as far as experimenting and going into these different realms so that we can kind of prove to ourselves that these different energetic realms, whether it's lucid dreaming, astral projection, these just kind of clairvoyant, almost flow state moments that just we can touch, these alternate states. And whether we use those psychoactive substances or whether we just use other practical exercises, I use breath work in that regard. But I think this is one of the major keys that you have in your repertoire or your lesson plan that's good for me, is to really get back into the body understanding, because I too have this idea of like escapism. Like I just want to live in this alternate dream. You touch those systems and then you get back into the real world and it's kind of disappointing. And so that brings me to this concept of preferences. And so I want to give just a quick backstory as quickly as I can on kind of how Maya and I came to this just general theme or frame. But I've been reading the book Living Untethered by Michael Singer, and I'm in a book club, and we're 6 weeks in. So there's 2 more full weeks of meeting together, and we do an hour and a half every week. So I mean, that's a lot of time that we're spending talking about these concepts. And so this is really helping me to integrate just some of the key points along the way. And I do know that Maya's read some of Singer's work just like I have. So this is not a thorough, exhaustive exposition on Michael Singer's work. This is me and Maya just coming together and seeing what kind of conversation develops. But thank you for mentioning the embodiment piece, because that's something I'm working on to try to get rooted in earth realm, the outside world, being okay with the outside world, living untethered, irrespective of our own preferences. And so these preferences are accidents. It's not like we're doing this on purpose, but like I prefer Italian food. Some people despise that, but they won't be able to have a good time if that's not happening for them right now. And so that's just a really dumb example, but we all have our color preferences. We all have our taste preferences. We have all manner. And those are the things that Michael Singer's trying to help us understand that are clouding our ability to let life in, to let it fully in. And
Yeah.
both negative experiences and positive experiences can imprint on our mind, preventing us to let life fully in. So I'll pass it off right there as much quickly as I can.
No, yeah, take your time. You know, it's funny. Today I came across a quote by Alan Watts, and he said it's something along the lines of wanting a positive experience, like being in the state of wanting the positive experience is a negative experience, and accepting a negative experience is a positive experience. So just today, this is so funny, but I was gonna make myself coffee like right before this episode. And I ended up making myself tea, but I was quite disappointed for a couple seconds there because I didn't have like my milk to make the coffee with. And I was like, this is what I do every morning. So now I'm out of my routine of making this coffee that like brings me so much pleasure and joy that I look forwards to in the morning. And I can't have it before this podcast episode. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can start going down into the, oh, this is so bad. Like,
I'm going through the exact same experience. I don't have coffee today either. I'm drinking something different myself. Everything you're saying right now is like a mirror of my morning.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I mean, it's so on target in this weird way. That's synchronicities. We can talk about that all you want.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it works, right? Yeah, and then I don't, it's, I was just having that Alan Watts quote in my head because I was listening to a video with that quote right before the coffee thing happened. And then I'm like, oh, but like, listen, I have this tea and I can actually enjoy this moment without having the coffee that I really believed I needed to enjoy the moment.
Yes, absolutely that. Absolutely that. Like that's so on target. In some of our kind of build up to this conversation, you did mention that in the last few weeks you've been feeling an energetic shift, maybe what I would call the deep peace, in the Pneuma. You want to talk about that? Just kind of how you're recognizing those states, or if there was some sort of work that you did to get there, or was it just kind of spontaneous? I know a little bit about Michael Singer. His work really was like a spontaneous arising. He
Yeah.
wasn't doing the work that way, and anything you want to say in those domains.
Yeah, and it's just a comment. It's the same with the story of Eckhart Tolle, right? I mean, he just was in so much suffering when he was in college, and then he just popped out of popped out of it in some kind of way. For me, I'm, reflecting on this and integrating this the past week, basically, because let's see, let's see what wants to come through. because I'm very much so freshly, it felt like, okay, so I'll go to this. I've been, I think, like what I would call deeply depressed twice in my life. One time was about 4 years ago, and that was a couple months of just, suicidal ideation, not wanting to be here. And from that point, I took a 5 gram mushroom trip, which scared me of death. So I'd never thought about suicidal thoughts again. Um, and then another spout of depression I had, which was shorter, but it was very much so like, I just want to be in bed. I don't want to get up. I'm going back to all of my bad habits and going through them again just to see if there's anything there for me inside of those habits, you know? Um, and that happened to me. Oof, I'm really bad with keeping track of what time I'm in, but it was about a month ago where I was just really like going through like a 3 week period of being very depressed. And from what I understand, I watched these like YouTube videos about astrology, and during the period when I was like really down and under, other people were reflecting the same experience to me when I was going to YouTube and finding these astrologers. And in the comment section, it was just very synchronous, like, oh, other people are perhaps experiencing this, so perhaps it has to do something with the stars up there. I'm not an astrologer, I don't keep up with that too much, but there was some synchronicity there. But yeah, it was almost this and of course, I can look back at events that happened in my life that didn't go how I wanted them to go. And perhaps that's why I went into that depression. But after that state, I mean, it was really important for me, I think, to go into that state of like deep depression. And Bashar, which I follow Bashar's teachings, he's a channel. He calls depression a compression. It's a compression of energy that makes you go back inside into yourself. Um, so I didn't want to be social. I didn't really want to go talk to people. I was just very much with myself, inside myself, and I felt a lot of emotional energy moving through my body. I mean, whenever if some people may not be familiar with what it means for energy to move through your body, I would describe it as like, for example, if you're about to do something and you're nervous, you can tap into your body and maybe feel something in your stomach that is moving around there. So it's like that kind of feeling, but like for an elongated period of time where I had that movement of internal energy happening. And yeah, I think because I allowed myself to explore being in that depressed state while having self-compassion for my state, brought in a new awareness that I didn't have before when I would be depressed or experiencing anxiousness or any sort of uneasiness. I was able to have more awareness and more compassion within that state and more fully experience it to actually realize that I naturally came out of that depression because I naturally stopped wanting to engage in all those habits. I just didn't want to like video games. Like I went deep into like just doing video games like hours a day again, which I haven't done for years. And then I just naturally didn't want to do the video games anymore. I naturally didn't want to do any of those habits anymore because I think I allowed the process of the depression, of the compression of what that came there to do for me, to actually go through me. And so from that state, I arose into the state of feeling peace for pretty much since then. But it's been complex for me because as I feel like I get a lot out of actually being in states of anxiety or like depression or nerve. Like right now, like the past 2 days, I'll say I went back into a state of anxiety, and that started from a point of me being like, how did I actually get out of that anxiety in the first place and into that deep peace? So I intentionally was like thinking about how, okay, wait, I want to go back into the anxiety. So so I can better understand what even shifted there for me, you know. And then I saw myself getting sucked back in, but then there's this process of like bringing in awareness and being able to observe what's going on to allow everything to flow through you instead of keeping it inside of you like as if you're putting up a dam for the experience. You're letting it to actually flow and not actually get stuck within you. So, I'm still going, and I'll be for the rest of my life probably going in and out of like many emotional states, and I'm just seeking how to better allow that to go through me and experience that life through me. So that's what I got for that question.
Well, I mean, I want to add to that, I want to color that a little bit because this is a perfect time to go into some definitions. And I love that you do that in your videos and you exhaust the etymological orientation to words. I just think that's so cool. But the word that Michael Singer uses here about these impressions that get stuck in the body, he's going to call those the samskaras as it
Hmm.
relates to the Hindu and the Jainism, the Eastern philosophy set. And so he relies on that word because these yogis from thousands of years ago already understood this. They didn't understand this through teachings or other masters teaching it to them. They were just masters of their own awareness. And so, just to define samskaras, it is the impressions that get stuck in the mind over time. And then this idea that we use our willfully created thoughts to replace the automatic generated ones. And so as I navigate around the world, I have had to work on my own inner dialogue. I've had to build an inner awareness. And so the world, there's an awareness of the outside world and there's an awareness of the inside world. And it's not always okay in here. And Michael Singer's asking us to really inspect those states of anxiety. Like everything you're saying there, I've experienced. I'd say it was almost 2 months ago when I woke up one Wednesday morning and all of a sudden I couldn't even explain it. Like a kind of a spontaneous thing. I just felt like Richard again. And I'm like, whoa, I could feel like I was reaching out and touching a past version of myself in childhood where I understood something that I didn't have the language to communicate to my adults. You mentioned this in one of your episodes, how you remember at a young age, I don't know if it was 12 or 13 or before that, but you remember holding this essence and this embodying the state of being. And you even asked yourself at that point, like, can I keep this? Or is this something that the world is going to domesticate me out of? Like there's a genius that's inside of every person, and the world de-geniuses us and puts a scaling factor and compares us and contrasts and conformity, non-conformity. Like you mentioned so many amazing things. I mean, all of this comes out of samskaras and the idea that we are blocked, and if we can learn to release those blockages through the heart opening, but above the heart opening is the throat opening. So, like, different people get stuck in different realms. And I definitely had an opening a couple months back that I'm still just investigating. I can't put words to every experience I have, words are limiting.
Yeah. Well, now I'm curious. Now I'm curious about the opening. What happened? Or how
Yeah,
did you feel more so? Like,
just
if it's
more.
not what happened, just how'd you feel?
Yeah, just a spaciousness developed, a relaxed ease kind of came over me. And it's a space that I remember in my youth, and it's just like, whoa, I feel like I time traveled. It's a good way of explaining it. And then I spent the whole next couple of days, as much as I could, imprinting. So, like, when I find those deep, peaceful moments, however they arise, I really do take some time and try to stamp them into my energetic signature. I'll take notes. I'll do extra journaling. I'll just pull out the recorder and be like, I don't know what's happening today, but on this date, I just woke up and I felt kind of more like Richard than I have in a really long time. I mean, I readily admit, I've gone through a lot of depression and weird, just not being comfortable with the world and what's happening and whatever. I mean, the preferences of my life. And those are the things I'm trying to overcome just in an intellectual realm so that I can let life pass through, avoid the samskaras, because the samskaras are the blockages. Those are the traumatic things, like the body keeps a score kind of thing. And I do a lot of breath work. There's a million different modalities. The thing that works for me is to connect to my breathing first, and once I hit the relaxed state, then I can focus on what the contents of my inner dialogue are. Without connecting to the breath first, my mind just kind of runs its own course.
Yeah, the breath is the connection to the body, right? And so much of that is stored within the body and is allowed to then arise and then into the conscious awareness, right? As you relax and tap into that. Yeah. And I wanted to say, actually, I wrote this down because in the beginning you were talking about that we can get stuck in this kind of fantasizing place about life and like what we want, but we're not, but like our physical reality has like such a stark difference from it. And there's the reality aspect and then there's the dream aspect. And how I've been uh, perceiving this for myself is that we are here to learn how to bring down the dream. It's almost like the dream is some kind of like above the head, above the in the crown chakra, or a thought form, higher self download, which really is representative of you and your energetic essence, your energetic signature. It's a reflection of who you are. And what I believe it's for us to learn how to bring down that dream and actually embody the essence of that dream and the like, when we're imagining things, we have, it's almost like we're like all powerful in a sense, like not maybe all powerful, but it's like we have a lot of power in our imagination to create like almost anything we like. So there's this kind of creative force we all have because we can all imagine in one aspect or another. And for us to bring down that, it's hard to describe, but that creative force, that powerful conscious intent in your imagination to go into something and create something and to bring that down into how we operate, into our operation within the physical reality. And so that is how I've been perceiving and what I've been perceiving the integration of these states within myself to be leading towards or embodying.
Yeah, I'm hung on every word. That was beautiful. That was excellent. I
Thank
love
you.
that. I heavily rely on the creative process in any multifaceted way. Um, just started playing piano about a year ago. I'm not a piano player, but I'm having such joy just creating random things in that realm. I do doodle art. The doodle art has no rhyme or reason or rationality to it. It's shapes on a page, it's lines with a pen. It makes no sense to anybody other than to me. It's like a stream of consciousness, co-creative space where I can do like I can split my mind and kind of do something over here, but doodle art, listen to a podcast and doodle art. Like I am always channeling that creativity because that's the only thing that's kept me just trying to juice the most out of life, as a musician, creative, as a writer, trying to be creative. I'm trying to move into mastery with the voice and expression in a vocal kind of monologue style expression. Like I listen to myself talk to myself and I'm like, that's not really what I'm trying to go for. I listen to other people talk to themselves and deliver a monologue, like you and my buddy Corin, or even Reagan with Transforming the Darkness. And there's certain people out there I'm just so impressed by the contents of their minds, their creativity, and how they bring it down in the moment, inside the flow. And it's inspiring. I mean, there are a handful of people out there that I kind of model or emulate in a lot of ways, and I'm just trying to refine my own understanding and bringing that creativity into expression. It's kind of the I'll say this here, that the science of mind teaching has an amazing metaphor, and I'm going to dig into this deeper, but just on a simple level, it's plant medicine of the mind. The seed, the soil, and the plant as metaphors. The seed holds the potential. Seeds of our thoughts hold potential. The soil is the nurturing, the where the nutrients come in and support and nurture. You're basically cultivating the inner garden of your mind. And these metaphors are powerful, and I've latched onto this one. And then the plant is the manifestation, the physical outgrowth of that creative space, whatever you've got going on in there, trying to bring it down to reality for people. And so in a practical sense, and then that's my challenge, is finding the practical applications and explaining it to people in a simplified way where it's just not too complicated. Because ultimately it's super simple, but we make it complicated.
Right. And also, there's so much information out there, and it's like our task from our experience to extract the seeds of the knowledge, right? So we can plant those distilled seeds of knowledge in other people. But also, like as you were talking, I was thinking of the saying, if you see it, you got it. Like whatever you see in other people, like you really got it. Like everything you just expressed about other people's monologues and how you think about them. I mean, that's how I feel like your mind is as well. Like I don't see that there's distinguishment there, and yet you seem to see a distinguishment or some kind of, I don't know, you were doing something. You were like, you were saying that you see it in other people, but almost like you don't have it yet within yourself. But I don't know, it's interesting because like how I was talking about the you are the dream and you are the vision already. It's like you already are that, and you're just experiencing the becoming
Mm-hmm.
through your life experience, but you have already became that because it's already within, if it's already in the imagination, the dream, the dream's already present for you, it's already there. Just the physical world is your adventure to make that story weave however you'd like to. That's how I see it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. Excellent. Yeah. You have to move into it. It's a cumulative process for sure. And yeah, I mean, that does what I said there does speak to my own lack of just full, like superpower self-confidence, but like there's just you get sometimes you get a kernel of an idea, and then when you just you look you think about it, you roll it around your own mind, and then the second you hit record, it just changes. And so what I'm saying there is like I've tried to like record 15 and 20-minute segments. I'm just like, that's just not what I was going for when I sat out when I started, and I look at my notes and I'm like, how did I get so off topic? And then I'm like, is anything off topic? Is there anything that's out of bounds here? And so, yeah, I mean, you're right. And thank you for saying that. I mean, it does speak to my own issue with that confidence. I do think I've got something really energetic to offer people. I hope that everybody really enjoys any conversation I can bring. It's not for everybody, you know. Some people are deeply on the spiritual journey trying to wrap these concepts and define these concepts and take notes. I mean, I've got more pages of notes than I know what to do with. We've only been through not even one full page and we're just chatting it up, and I'm having a great time. But yeah,
Absolutely.
that dream world in our minds, that active imagination, and bringing that into reality. It's just what we do as content creators, and uploading it and hitting the publish button. Sometimes I have to
And it
come
never
against,
goes to plan.
yeah, it never goes
It
to
never
plan.
goes to plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
there's
that's okay.
and I really like Bashar because he has a lot of really good quotes that I just resonate.
Okay, well, welcome to the second half of this episode of the Pneuma of Now podcast. Maya was here just talking about Bashar before our time limit ran out. So we want to start there before we continue the discussion.
Yeah, so Bashar is one of my favorite spiritual teachers because his channel is very, in my perspective, like clear cut to the point, and he has just some sentences and concepts and teachings that really just stick out and have resonated for a long time with me. And he's good for me to listen to get back into kind of like flow zone or back invite back awareness into whatever experience I'm going through. So that's why I periodically listen to him. But his main teaching, and he says this all the time, and this is just the condensed teaching, is follow your excitement to the best of your ability, to the furthest you can take it without expectation of the outcome or anything that's going to come of it. And that is literally like flow state. And my whole experience has been about flow state, basically. And you, Richard, you were just talking about how sometimes like you want to have a certain monologue or an idea for a video you have, and then it doesn't come out necessarily as planned, or you can't get it to the same way that was flowing when the information first came through for you. And something I just wrote down in response to that was that the flow, like in regards to the flow, I see it as the flow, it's always there, it's always available. And it's just about figuring out in what ways are you, are we blocking it so that we can allow it to stream and to flow through us, right? And so, oh my gosh. See, like right now, it's so funny. I'm talking about the flow when I'm feeling slightly out of flow because we just came from our break, and I'm like trying to read what I wrote, and it's so funny because I'm feeling like all these distortions to my flow, and I'm talking about flow. But yeah, so that's why I wanted to mention.
Okay. Well, no, I think that's excellent. I've experienced much of that kind of micro lesson from Bashar myself. I enjoy that kind of content because it does scramble my brain. It forces me to think differently. And then I do have to sit with those types of teachings for a while before I really can embody them. But definitely this whole idea that joy is a compass, and then just moving out in the world without your expectations clouding the experience, and I'm a deep philosophical thinker. The things that I've done with my mind, the topics I've put on my brain are definitely outside of the realm of most people's comfort zones. And so, as far as following that joy, even as far as the triangles that I study as it relates to a grammar of a mathematics, anybody who's listened to my channel for any amount of time knows that that's a key facet to how I've developed an entire set of philosophies around this idea of triangles. And so, anytime a really potent metaphor comes into place where there's three things like the seed, the soil, and the plant, I draw a triangle, I put a circle around it, and I start to define those qualities, and it's more important for me to investigate the qualities than it is to investigate or to kind of, maybe I'll say this a different way. I like to just focus on the qualities of experience that I'm trying to bring in, as opposed to focusing on the circumstances that the outside world presents itself. Like, that's a really hard thought to really kind of get out, but I hope that makes sense.
I'm trying to absorb your thought and reflect on it. So, what I understood you to say, please correct me if the interpretation is not there, um, is like so how I thought about it is like the screen of what all the experiences that are coming through, and it's just a bunch of images, but certain collection of images or certain scenarios that happen have a certain underlying right quality to it. Is that what you were almost talking about?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like the idea of these, just say like these primordial questions or primordial qualities, just like the concept of love, and like really investigating that in a way that's like, okay, if there is unconditional love, what does that mean? Like the way that Michael Singer, if we're going to consult the Oracle Living Untethered today, Michael Singer is going to define that as basically, if your love is not dependent on anything or anyone, it can last forever. This is the unconditional love. Love must spring spontaneously from within. And then there's another concept that I balance this with is non-judgment, like radical non-judgment. I'm not judging the terrible day I'm having. I'm not judging the accidents that happened. I'm not judging the drama that my neighbors are bringing me. I'm literally letting life in so that I can really be aware and observant of that. That inner awareness is the spiritual path, increased awareness, and it goes on forever, as you point out so beautifully. This is all a process. I am where I'm at in my quest of spiritual understanding. And right now I'm in a major growth curve. And so I'm trying not to judge those uncomfortable moments, because when you do that, that's when you're creating the samskaras that create blockages. And so I don't know if I've gotten off track here,
No,
but
you're perfect
okay.
because literally, as we took the break, I wrote down a really quick note about exactly what you were just talking about. So it's perfect that you picked out that quote. Um, Basically, like I literally wrote pathways of living awareness and building the awareness of muscle. So, and it's interesting, maybe we can link how that goes with what Singer said about love arising spontaneously. But how I see it is that with each experience and each new awareness that I bring in, each experience brings in a new awareness and can extract a new awareness from it. I bring in from all the past experiences more awareness into the current experience. And so it's like I can consciously choose to build my muscle of the path that which strengthens the pathway of loving awareness within me. And this actually, I feel like this is very much tied to confidence, as we talked before, because the journey of healing the solar plexus has just been very major for me, and will be continuing because I'm no way am I like fully healed there or anything crazy like that. But I feel like building this pathway of loving awareness is a key towards anchoring awareness in general and anchoring the awareness of our essence, anchoring the awareness of us, of the, there's so many words. You can help me out with your words to
Well,
this, but just anchoring our awareness of who we are so we have this internal confidence within ourselves no matter what is actually going on.
okay, yeah, that's you mimicking what we were talking about before when I say imprinting that novel moment, that Wednesday 2 months ago where I woke up and felt like myself again. So rather than anchor, my word in this instance is imprint. Like I want to like create a my actual active imagination here creates a hologram of that experience, the feeling, the essence, that part that you can't use words to describe that we try, and I call it deep peace. Deep peace in the Pneuma of Now, Pneuma meaning spirit. Also, I need to acknowledge you for improving the motto, because now it's deep peace in the Pneuma of Now I am. And so Maya is really a co-creator with the Luminal Mind channel. So all of these discussions are framed at that concept. But yeah, anchoring in those essences, those qualities, as opposed to, like, let's say, some people want to be married, but like you write down the things you want, the things you desire. I want to be financially stable. I want to have a job that I enjoy. I want a relationship that is loving. But behind those desires are actually qualities that you haven't even defined yet. You just want the experience of love. It doesn't rely on another person. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
rely on outside conditions and circumstances and how your physical reality might be unfolding in front of you. But yes, with a certain focus, you can change the trajectory of your life by changing the trajectory of your automatically generated thoughts. So find and replace. Don't fight it, find it, shine a light on it, and then replace it with your willful thoughts. So back to Singer, we apply our will to offset or neutralize the effects of the samskara. So the
Yes.
samskaras are
The
blockages, and you
will.
talk about neutrality in a really great way. So that's a handoff to you there.
Hold on. I was actually going to say something.
Yeah, yeah.
In the sense of getting what we want, like for example, you gave the example of a person wants to get married, okay, but do they? It's not about necessarily that they want it. It's do they? But what do you embody? Are you embodying the state and the level of consciousness that can actually support that experience? Because say you do get married, but like it can totally go so many different ways and not be at all how you want it to be because you're not even holding the consciousness, you're not embodying the consciousness that can hold that experience in the first place, you know? Um, and neutrality. Is there a specific part of neutrality you want me to touch on?
Okay, so when we're not neutral, we find ourselves at the extremes. So maybe extreme emotional turmoil or extreme emotional elation, a grandiose, awesome experience with praying mantises in spider webs, and the terrible experiences of going through a divorce. Okay, so the divorce is my experience. The uh, praying mantis is your experience, and I want to liken this to the example of David and Deborah. David and Deborah are both very similar people, but in my analogy here, David's going to be the one that's stressed out and has to have drama to keep his world and life going on, almost feels addicted to that behavior in order to get through his day. Yet Deborah, and I'm mirroring an episode that Maya posted, so know that there's a little bit of a context behind my David and Deborah. But Deborah's the lady who's just waking up and enjoying her coffee and getting yoga in the morning and just taking in the sunlight and the rays. They basically have the same set of things to do. One person is immensely unhappy and stressed and looping into self-critical thoughts, and the other person with a shift of mindset is just living an absolutely amazing morning.
Okay, yeah. Because
So
the
neutrality,
experience itself, right? The
yeah, yeah,
experience itself, do you want to get into that? It's neutral.
the neutral,
The
yeah. I just want
experience,
to, I
yeah.
want to keep the, yeah, keep your response into that, not the extremes.
Yeah. Yeah, so the experience itself, like Deborah and David are both like say they're both doing yoga, so that's the experience and they're engaging in the experience that is just some kind of outside. It's like if I don't know, like I'm seeing this pen, it's just a pen in front of me. It's a neutral outside object. It doesn't really have anything to like do with me. But but then David can really start hating on the pen and Deborah can really start just feeling gratitude for the pen. Like there's so many ways we could go about how we're gonna feel about something, engaging in yoga and just looking at a pen or just oh this is yeah.
So
I
yeah, you're saying it. Yeah. So neutrality is not having an emotional connection to whatever it is. So at this moment in time, you're letting the pen pass through into your full experience because you don't have an emotional connection to it. It's not a pen that your grandmother gave you. It's not a pen that doesn't work. It actually functions as it's supposed to. But if I pick up a pen and it doesn't work upon first strike, I get pissed off and I throw that shit away. Like if my pen doesn't work when I need it to, my samskara develops because I've lost so many amazing thoughts because I couldn't find a writing utensil to capture the effervescent, scintillating cognition of the inner world. And so every pen in my landscape works or it's in the trash. Like, no doubt about it. But in your example of the pen, you're just letting it pass through. You're just letting the moment of yoga pass through. David over here is already thinking about what's happening at work, his meetings, his party, the fact that he's not done this, not done that, forgot to take out the trash. He's not letting life in. He's living in a different reality than the person sitting right next to him, Deborah, who was letting life in,
right.
unfazed by the samskaras of our emotional attachment.
Yeah, then you're allowing the from neutrality, you're just allowing the you're bringing in your full presence of the experience that's going on in front of you, right? And I
Absolutely.
just thought it was funny because this bracelet and I just wanted the stone sodalite because I'm getting all the communication stones for my own, because I'm trying to help myself here, but it
Now, you're
just
not
didn't. And then
trying, you're doing.
I am, thank you. And it's so funny because when actually it was the earrings and the bracelet came together, I got so inside the space of being annoyed because my kind of OCD patterning kicked in, or I allowed it to kick in and fixate on, oh, but this earring makes a sound and that earring doesn't make a sound, and this doesn't fit exactly in the same way that I thought it was gonna fix. And I literally like got off this chain of like being annoyed and finding the problems within like everything. It was right. It was the lens of problem. Problem here, problem there. Everything's a problem now, and I'm annoyed. Now all these feelings are attaching to it. But that didn't I can stop that. I don't it doesn't have to be that way, you know? And then I can actually accept, like the Alan Watts quote, I can accept the negative experience. Wow, I'm actually having a good experience now.
Okay. Well, I think now's a perfect time to answer your question. So I'm going to drop another little bomb here, but thank you for that. That was perfect. Um, Perfect segue. So we asked the question, or we know the power of choice. I think we've both you and I have had this experience, this epiphany, this moment of just awakening ourselves to an understanding that we choose our thoughts, our thinking, our patterns, our behaviors. And so Michael Singer is actually going to get very clear on this. There are only two choices. You either devote your entire life to getting the world to match your samskaras, or you devote your life to letting go of them. And within that choice is where we break through to freedom. And that's been a meditation and a contemplation. Again, I've been studying him for 6 weeks, and I've been pulling out all the good nuggets of information. And I just think it's a really beautiful study. And I've been really benefited from it.
I remember actually, I was reading that page because I read like most of that book or the Untethered one. Something he said that same concept. I was reading it while I was at that camp, Sleepawake, and I remember like I kept rereading the page that was talking about this because oh my gosh. Now I don't know if I should get into the whole camp experience, but basically it was a camp where I was getting triggered. It was an emotional healing camp where I was literally getting triggered every single day. It was very intense for me, and so hearing that quote and that concept was very impactful for me. If you want to repeat it again.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, like I said, we do want to consult the oracle today. So we have two choices. Okay, remember, samskaras are the blockages that we create according to our preferences. They prevent us from letting life in. So we either devote our life to getting the world to match up to our samskaras, or we devote our lives to just letting go of those samskaras so that we can let life in. And this is a huge concept. I mean, it's much easier to say this than to embody this and to do this and to like find and inspect ourselves where we are trying to make the world conform to us versus us just letting it go. And then as far as surrender and acceptance, we have some more quotes. So the act of letting go is what is meant by acceptance and surrender. There is a state of great peace within you that cannot be disturbed by the world, your thoughts, or even your emotions. And then I got to go to the next bookmark real quick. This is basically our first encounter with what surrender and acceptance really mean. You don't surrender the outside world, you totally accept it. What you surrender is the personal, made up judgment of it. If you were asked whether it's okay with you that Saturn has rings, you would probably look very puzzled and say, well, what's that got to do with me? That's a crazy question. The truth is, every single thing is this way. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the forces that caused it to be the way it is, and those forces stretch back billions of years. The total acceptance of this truth is surrender. You must let go of that part of you that thinks it has the right to like and dislike the results of billions of years of interaction. Surrender is letting go of the part of you that is not living the truth. This is true surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah, take your time. Yeah, take your time with it. You don't have to respond to it. It's just, it's good stuff. It really is
Yeah.
powerful stuff.
I would love to find that and there was it was the Untethered Soul, that book. I would love to find that page because it was something very similar to this, but it was phrased slightly differently. So maybe if I find it, I can send you over the quote. Maybe you can put it down below. I feel like it would just because I don't have it with me right now.
Well, they were written, those two books were written 15 years apart. If my memory serves correctly, Untethered Soul was 2007, Surrender Experiment was somewhere in the middle, and then Living Untethered was 2022. So I'm
Oh,
reading his work backwards. I'm starting with his third book and working way. I'm going to go Surrender Experiment next, and then I'm going to actually read Untethered Soul last.
okay.
And so that's how I'm going. I'm just backwards man over here. But you've read some of the Surrender Experiment.
Yeah, I've read all of the Surrender Experiment. Um, yeah, I mean that's a big one. When you were reading it, it kind of set me off into this like, little meditative state. Okay. I think, like, for example, to bring what he said to, for example, the creation of this podcast in this moment right now, I think part of like acceptance, right, isn't just about like, and I'm not saying this is what he's saying, but I'm just adding a comment. It's not just about, right, externally what's happening, but also internally what's happening and accepting that, like, living without expectation of what it is to come through you. Like, for example, right now I'm speaking and I can be strangled by this expectation that's, I think, hovers around a lot of people in our society that do create content and things that other people see, because it's like there's this performance kind of nature to how we're expected to be, and like always, and this is actually, this is from the Brothers Karen. They're doing this embodied voice workshop, and I'm part of it, and they're just amazing. But they say this, that we're like in this performance culture, so that, and that really prevents us from being authentic. And part of the acceptance is the acceptance of what truly wants to come through you in this moment, unfiltered by how you think you need to be and how what you think you need to say, and sounding profound or sounding, just things, that are coming up for me right now, like sounding profound or like I have something really
Right.
important to say. It's like, but this is what I want to say right now, and that's what's coming up as a reflection, and that's my concept of the interaction space, is being deeply present with yourself and accepting what does actually want to arise for you, because that is your deep authenticity, and that authenticity, the closer you can get to it, the more layers of these, expectations and this performance you take off of yourself. Like, authenticity is just the key for allowing you the flow, really, and life to flow through you, and for you to also accept what's happening, quote unquote, like outside of you, and then you're able to have this dance. And I'm really working on stepping into that. That's my reflection there with that.
Well, I mean, I can add to it with your own content. I mean, that's going to bring up the concepts of embarrassment that you inspect in one of your episodes. Also, the idea of waving your freak flag and just being me. Like, I've got this extra energy, ball of energy. Some people can't handle to be around me for very long. Not because I'm a bad person, just because I'm bringing a different kind of like, what's up? How's it going? What are you thinking about? You reading any good books? Seen any good movies? What kind of music you listening to? What's your favorite food? And so that intensity is something I've had to embody. And then, I mean, obviously learning social cues and knowing when to tone it down a little bit and being, business environment, professional environment. But no, I'm out here waving my freak flag as much as possible, almost on purpose. I almost came on this podcast with eyeliner on. I just didn't have any eyeliner. I was going to do something embarrassing on purpose just to show you that, like, I'm listening to your lesson plans. I really am. So it's
I
just
appreciate it.
fascinating, and I can't wait to see how long. I don't, another 5 episodes. I'd be totally good with that. Another 20 episodes. You just keep doing your mystical translation series, and I'll be watching because you've set a good frame. You set a great frame, and everything you're doing is talking about that spiritual journey. So definitely,
I appreciate it.
we
Yeah, I
and
mean, yeah.
look, I'll just finish real quick. The word
Yeah, go
weird,
ahead.
the word weird literally means the power to control fate.
And that's the authenticity. That's and like all your authenticity being quote unquote weird, being authentic is, I mean, that's what I believe to be your point of power, to be present with what is authentic for you. And that's literally like the life that wants to come through you. And that's why, in order to be authentic and to really embody that, the solar plexus is really important in that, and healing the solar plexus, which is like your confidence, right? And that's been major. I mean, that's the most quote unquote, to use the word wounded aspect for myself personally, and having self-worth. Yeah, that's a big journey for me. I think I was gonna make a video about it, but like I mentioned earlier here, like confidence is in the essence of being able to really anchor down into who you are. And with the solar plexus, let's see. Yeah, I don't really want to go into my whole story about that because that's gonna be probably a whole video. But what I want to say is, like, just recently, I've been able to do things and act in ways that I think earlier just I would never be able to do and would cause me like extreme amounts of anxiety. For example, just a couple of days ago, I'm in the Brothers Quran workshop, and what they do is they do like voice embodying exercises, and it was a Zoom group of like 40 people and then another one of 100 people, so a good amount of people. And then I go on there with the 40 people group, and I volunteered to basically express a sound that's authentically coming through me, and it was this ugly, like really ugly sound. Like it was just like not, it did not sound good in any way. It was very like primal and like from the the core of me, like very deep sound. And I just made that sound in front of like all those people for like what 10 seconds, and it was like I was fine with doing that, and I didn't think the thoughts of, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I've done. Like, and I was nervous coming up to the moment of it was my turn, but when it was my turn, like I was fine. And it's just like, whoa, like that's crazy to me that. So, anyway, it's just that part of like knowing yourself and being okay with looking however you're looking to other people because you are truly expressing yourself. That's so important for you to actually have an influence, like a positive influence on other people. And that's important for you to feel empowered and then to, positively influence other people through that empowering energy. And it's not, and then it's the idea of it's not like the spiritual journey. If anybody watching here, I'm sure you're on some, I mean, in my opinion, everybody's on the spiritual journey, consciously or unconsciously. But what was I gonna say? What was I saying? Like
I think you're
disappeared.
speaking about coming to the edge of your comfort zone. And when you're
Right,
releasing
right.
that, when you had that anxiety, but when it was your turn,
Mhm.
you still crossed that threshold. It's a little bit like waving the freak flag and living on the edge. That's another way people talk about that.
Yes, and what the ending part I was gonna say is that the spiritual journey, it's ultimately, like in my perception, it's a coming into oneness and unity consciousness. And in order for us to really embody that, engaging with others, and that's part of the reason I created my own podcast, is because engaging with others is a major part of that. I mean, there comes a point where there's probably some things you want to create that can be much bigger when other people are involved, right? It's not just you, because it's, you're here for something greater than yourself, and then involving other people and having that energy together is just so much more powerful, by essence, because it's a bunch of people connected together. And so that's why the solar plexus is so important,
Okay, we've got a
but
2 minute
also,
warning.
yeah, whatever. But also balanced with like the heart, right? So it's this interesting balance when interacting with other people where it's like, don't discredit yourself, but then don't discredit somebody else's perspective because it is so different from yours. And and it is this like interesting dance that happens. But I feel like we as a society have so much to learn about that going forwards.
Very beautiful. What a great conversation. And I just really saturated gratitude for you to just step in here short notice. Everybody, Maya's amazing. I do hope you all check out her content. My work here really is just to support other creators, and allowing me to get my in the moment flow zone thoughts into embodiment for myself. Maya helps me with that a great deal. We've studied the same things, and then she reflects on in her own way that really does inform my studies. And I think that anybody that is on the spiritual path is going to be very well received by your materials and well served by your materials. So I want to encourage you to keep going with everything you're doing. I look forward to watching your channel grow, watching anything you upload. But thank you so much for being here. I am going to wrap it up, and we leave you with one thought and one thought alone: deep peace in the pneuma of now I
I
am.
am. Yes. All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
I was gonna disappear.
That's a
It's gonna
wrap. It's
disappear.
going to
It's gonna
disappear.
disappear.